Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Wade, Partnership Manager at Bitwave, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Fernanda, who is a contractor at an IP law firm called Jayaram Law. Fernanda, thank you so much for joining. How are you today? And I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you got into the Web3 space.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Yeah, of course. I got into the space, I think 2019. Well, I started knowing about the space in 2019 when I was studying my Master of Law at Loyola Law. And I got this book that is called Blockchain and the Law. And I started reading it, and I was really fascinated by like this technology. And I especially remember thinking like of the word smart contracts, and I was like, ooh, it's something that actually like a software that can execute based on like certain conditions. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. So I read the book. I was like, at the time, my husband was like, oh, there's this thing called blockchain. So I was like, oh yeah, I read this book. And that's how I like my first introduction to blockchain. And then while I was like studying for the bar, my first job was at a company called Mojito, which is an NFT software company for that offers branded marketplaces. So that was my first job, and I loved it.
Incredible. It's great to at least have that foundation of like knowledge. You're doing that research, you're reading about it, and then you go straight from law school into actually working for a Web3 company. Then you're learning through experience. And it's always a pleasure to be able to seek the insight from an attorney such as yourself. And I was wondering if you would be able to share some general insights that other Web3 businesses and creators should know and understand regarding their IP. It sounds like now you're specializing within IP from a legal perspective.
Yeah. So one of the first things that I have to say to creators is protect your IP. Uh, Along my career, I found both companies and creators, they don't really give the importance of IP. They just think like, oh, why I should register, why I should protect it, or why later, and they focus on other things. And I think protecting your IP, if you believe is like a valuable asset from the beginning, is super important. And that comes along with enforcement, or actually like if you see someone like using your ERP, sending cease and desist letters, because that is proof of evidence that you're enforcing your IP rights. So even if
Right.
you do it yourself, like you have to stop or do things to stop the use, the unauthorized use of your IP. And also understanding that IP like strategy is not only like or a trademark or a copyright. It could be a combination of all of these intellectual property protections. It could be you can protect your know-how, but you can also protect your data or a trade secret and your trademark, and even you can get a copyright for your software. So all of this
Right.
together is what makes your IP as a whole like a valuable asset. So I think creators and companies have to see the big picture and communicate with on the side of the companies with like the chief financial officer or others executives with the IP attorneys that like to work together to build these strategies. And from the creator side, always like talk to an attorney and just have a general overview. And if you feel comfortable, like try to learn more about it and try to do it yourself, or actually hiring someone, I think is so relevant and like so missed in the IP world. And now all of these tools in the blockchain space are coming. One of the things related to, for example, NFTs is like the licenses that are attached or are in the marketplaces, like the terms of services, they may not suffice to be like a binding licensing agreement. So there we have the technicality issue there, that there's not a tool for that, but they're coming. Story Protocol is one of them. They're building a IP network protocol so all the creators can build their IP asset on chain, and then they can enforce royalties and create other derivatives of IP. Or other company called Mintangible, that they are like allow you to launch an NFT collection and attach a license based on what you need. So I think all of these tools are coming, and every creator and a company should be paying attention to that.
Yeah, incredible. Love the innovation within the space and all the new and emerging businesses. And you mentioned how IP is an asset. It's an asset that needs to be protected too, which kind of leads me to my next question associated with what Web3 founders should know as it relates to their like tax and accounting associated with their IP. And I think it's pretty remarkable how you mentioned before we're starting to record it here about how you can utilize IP perhaps as a form of collateral. Like, can you provide some additional insights there?
Yeah, so there are like two very important or interesting ways where companies or creators can use their IP assets. So one is like they can get a valuation for their IP and actually get a collateral for that, meaning that like maybe you get the whole trade secret, copyrights, all this combination of IP, and then you don't want to get investment from third parties and you want to like expand your business, right, as a creator, because you have to think it as a business. You can go and ask and get a valuation from your IP and get them as a collateral for a debt, and also like if you're during an M&A transaction, it's very important to get your IP evaluated because that
Right.
can be part of what's the valuation of the company, right? So that I think is super important. And also the ability to get government incentives, right? Like New York is investing a lot in technology, and they are constantly opening grants for technology companies. So I think if you have a strong IP, you can even like show to them like, hey, I have this strong IP, and get a grant from them based on that.
Incredible. I love it. And it kind of makes me think about what we've seen here at Bitwave. So we have companies that utilize DeFi protocols. They will actually deposit collateral and borrow against that. And it makes me think that there's other platforms out there where you could actually lock up your NFT and also borrow against that. And from a tax and accounting perspective, I'm you want to think about, should I still treat this collateral as on balance sheet, or is this a disposal? Is that type of transaction subject to capital gains or not? And then, of course, account for that loan as a liability. And I know that with our software, you'll be able to at least have that type of flexibility in terms of the type of tax treatment you want to execute, or tax treatment that you want to apply really on your financials as well. So I appreciate your insight, and it'll be great to be able to share this with our community.
Yeah, no,
So
and Chris, I want to jump in, and I think there's a very important thing that you guys are doing that I compare it in the Web2 space as Carta. Carta is super useful for like managing like board consents and like 409As and like managing all the fundraising and all of that. Is like they're needed because it's so hard to keep track of that. So Bitwave
right,
is
yeah,
equivalent in Web3, and like I work with clients and we use Carta. So here's like, to be able to like execute these like IP strategies for like tax incentives or government or whatever, you need to work with companies and people like you with the attorneys, so we can like provide the best strategy. I don't think it's like everything should be done by the attorney or everything should be done by the accountants. It should be a combination of both to get the best of it.
right, exactly. Because at the end of the day, Bitwave is an excellent software, but it's really designed in partnership with our clients, with their attorneys, with their CPAs. That way, we're able to all collaborate together to do our best to maintain compliance. So, couldn't agree with you more. And yeah, also a big fan of Carta as well. We've had numerous conversations with them. So, all good stuff. And it's a very exciting time right now in the market. We all know the market's pumping. And I was wondering, what are you in particular, excited about this year? And, anything that you find extra creative or inspirational within the Web3 space that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First is a bull market, and I love that. It's my first, I think, fully in bull market. Second, my mom is buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and she can't wait. And she's been like, I want to buy, I want to buy. What is this? She's been preaching Web3 to her friends. She's like, I want to get you clients. It's so funny. So I'm excited that like people like my mom or my dad, they're finally like, oh, I want to learn more. I think it's even like, like something different to do, to invest, to like open your mind. So I like that. And also I think this year, a lot of companies are working towards creating, like making blockchain interoperable, even to, using other blockchains, or like creating layer twos and apps that are going to scale, like, and take blockchain to mass adoption. So I think we're on the path. I think this is a good year for that. There's still a long way to come, but I'm excited that finally we can eventually bring more people in. A lot of people are excited, so mass adoption and the path towards it is what keeps me very excited this year.
Exactly. I've also been having like conversation with like some of my family that are generation up or two, and they're like, Chris, like, I want you to show me how to buy Bitcoin, and that's great. It's good to kind of practice what we preach. And then eventually perhaps have the conversations about all the different types of layer twos. You mentioned that you're also at ETH Denver, and there's been a lot of development in the space there too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Arbitrum is like one of the top, and I believe their project is very well executed, in the sense that like they have very clear what they want to do. They're very open. They never said like, "Oh, we're married to this technology." We're researching the technology available today to make it like, but tomorrow that can change. So I think that open-mindedness, understanding that the technology is changing, that there's a lot of like hurdles to overcome, is what like is gonna take us there. Yeah, and I think Arbitrum is a great example of that, and I really love their project. Also, like how they execute their DAO, and how they're managing it, and like how they give a token that is only for governance and allows you to vote. So also that way of organization that we're going to see. I hope that we can see that everywhere in the world at some point.
Amazing. I love it. And definitely going to be looking more into the Arbitrum
Yeah, you
ecosystem
should.
as well.
They have a
For
constitution and everything, so you should check it out.
I will definitely. So, Fernanda, always a pleasure. Appreciate you allocating some time here. Thank you so much, and certainly looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.